Hey Swifties, I'm Aubrey,
And I'm Peyton.
and today we are giving you book recommendations based off your favorite song from Evermore.
Yes, so join us with a cup of coffee as we dive between these paper sheets.
Let's do this.
Alrighty, hey everyone, welcome to another episode. This one I'm really
Hi.
excited for, but first things first, this is an NS episode, Smearly
Yep.
Rex. So no spoilers whatsoever. So you do not have to worry about being spoiled. Now with that being said, they are lyrics, so like I
Yeah,
guess you could read into the book, but we're giving you know what I mean.
we did our
So
best.
a lot of times maybe I'll say, oh, there's elements of this song in this
Yeah.
book, and it reminds me of it. But at the end of the day, it's a story. We're not going to spoil any big plot things for you.
Yeah, never is a Taylor Swift song going to be like, and then in the middle, this
This
character
happened.
does that. You know what I mean? Like, this is
Yeah,
the end. Like, it's not going to be that exact. So it's
exactly.
there. But I think this is also one of our better ones where it was actually very hard to do this because we're primarily fantasy readers. And so trying to pick like songs to match these vibes didn't. It's more about the thought, about the feeling,
The
about one
vibe.
particular line and ignore the thematics of the rest of the song. So I think we're really good on spoilers this time.
Yes.
But with that, welcome to Gray November. This is, I think, our 5th Taylor Swift episode. We are doing it now because of Evermore is so like November coded. And I just love the line, Gray November. I've been down since July because we certainly have.
We have.
Um, so we're going to distract ourselves here with our 2 favorite things, books and Taylor Swift, as we jump into our Evermore recommendations.
Yes. So Aubrey and I totally collabed on this list, and we have compiled for the main track list books for you. So
Yes.
I'm so excited that we're starting with this one. This is a book that we just reviewed on this channel. It has taken the like romantasy book talk for Storm. I just recommended it to my cousin and he was like, I heard about that. I want to read it. So yeah, it's just so exciting. So we are starting with Willow, track 1, and we are
Yes.
recommending One Dark Window. Aubrey and I are lucky to have the
The very
pretty,
beautiful,
I mean, come on,
classy,
guys.
stunning, sprayed edges.
They're beautiful.
This is a
Yes. Yes.
gothic fantasy, which is just so like fun, and I feel like gothic fantasy gives fall in the way that like Evermore gives
Absolutely.
fall.
Yes. This is a fall read through and through. I mean, just look at the gold foiling, guys. Like this
It's
is
so beautiful.
fall. So I wrote down this one because
Yes.
this Willow is all about following that one person to the ends of the earth. The more that you say, the less I know. Wherever you stray, I'll follow. I'm begging for you to take my hand, wreck my plans. That's my man. Um, and so this book has, in all fantasy books, really, this has
Yeah.
that. I was, banished and I have like these scars and you have scars and we have this like shared trauma of life. And through that, like, no matter where we go, we're going to fight against all odds together. I love the
Yeah.
line. Wait for the signal and I'll meet you after dark. Show me the places where the others gave you scars. And in this book, there's a lot of that, like, this is my safe place and
Yeah.
like, oh, this is, a secret. Like there's a lot of secrets in this book and a lot of
Mhm.
like keeping things hidden from one another to protect one another, but then to protect yourself. And I don't know. I just feel like Willow is such a vibey song and it fits like
Yeah.
One Dark Window so well.
I don't know how much I agree.
What?
I love parts of your interpretation. So I will give you that. I feel like that it hypes up the romance, Like, I don't know if if the couple in this book are the, like, "Wherever you stray, I'll follow you. I'm begging for you to take my hand, wreck my plan. That's my man." I don't know if that first bit I feel like she has a bigger connection with the monster in her head than the romance. However, the second half of what you said, I'm
But
there
I
for.
don't think she's begging for the monster to take her hands and
No,
wreck
no,
her
no.
plan.
I don't think she's begging anyone to take her hand. I think that's the thing. Is I think Willow is such a like romantic, we are soulmates, and I didn't have a better option to put on the thing, which is why it's here. But
I'm thinking at the I don't want to give spoilers in the NS
yeah,
episode,
yeah,
but there's a
yeah.
certain part in the book where like so the main character in the story has like a monster living in her head. So it's kind of
Mhm.
like a throuple situation that's going on in this book, but like involuntarily. And at the end,
Yeah.
there's some mind talking and there's just this pleading and begging and like the main love interest would literally do anything to have her back. And he's like, it went from like this morally gray, like flirtatious thing to like, I can't live without you. And we're going to fight this like big monster together. I think Aubrey blocked out the romance in this book
No, listen,
completely because you have to reread it. You have to reread it, and you're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, yes!" Like the ending of this is like cataclysmic, like crazy. And
I agree that the ending is crazy, but I just think that it's happening on a different level than romantic.
well, that's because we're fantasy readers.
I
This is a
don't
very
know. I mean,
romantic song.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. I think this is an amazing book. This is one of my favorite books of the year.
it's so good.
It's so good. It's like I said earlier, gothic fantasy. The magic system super unique. It follows our main character Elsbeth as she is kind of introduced into this like secret little I don't want to call it a cult, but like secret little organization that's working to collect all of these magical cards before the king can because they want to save the land from this like magical like rot and like desolation that's happening. And she is like cursed in a way in which like all of these children who are born with magic are cursed, and I think that plays into this like the Willow like scar themes. I really love this book. It's not a romantasy, and I just want to be clear on that.
Yeah,
You
I think
know,
it's gonna turn into one.
I
Okay.
think the romance is great, but it is absolutely like a plot C.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll,
You
yeah.
know, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a plot C. It's not even B
Not
plot.
it wasn't for me, but that's okay. We can agree to disagree. I thought this book was really romantic, and I thought it had a good blend, but the romance is not the A plot. The romance, the partner
Yeah.
himself, I think hid the next book, and I'm sure if our people have read the next one, they're like, "Oh yeah, like he's all in the
Oh,
next book." So with that being said,
yeah.
we'll follow up with that.
We'll follow up. No, no, no,
Yeah.
and I don't wanna talk bad about the romance. I really enjoyed it. But if I'm thinking about romance of, like, Fourth Wing or ACOTAR or some type of romantasy, like, it's definitely more in the back seat.
Oh yeah. I mean, I could have put ACOTAR here, but we're not doing
We're not doing that.
that.
We're not recommending that book.
No, not anymore.
Moving forward,
Yes, the next one.
the next one, I'm gonna say this with my chest that I know that this is a stretch,
Oh,
okay? I
I've never read this.
understand that, like, if like, I nitpicked Peyton's Willow pick, you could nitpick my Champagne Problems pick to hell and back, okay? We're going more for, like, vibes than necessarily, like, parallel stories here, okay? With that, for Champagne Problems, I have Heartless Hunter. Now, Heartless Hunter, I really enjoyed this book. I felt like it was a little slow in the beginning, but by the time that I like was in the story, I was like in it to win it. This is a
Hmm,
YA fantasy. It follows our main character. Don't
forgot her
remember her
name.
name. That's a
There's a main
problem.
character here.
But it follows our main girl, maybe Rune, potentially Rune. Um, and she is a witch, But the
Oh.
witches used to be, like, the queens, and they all got overthrown and killed,
Oh,
like,
shit.
a decade ago, and so now the people who are in control are hunting all of the witches, so she has to keep the fact that she's a witch secret,
Oh,
and she's
fun.
got a witch friend and her best friend, and they are going around and they're trying to save all of these witches who are being, like, hunted and persecuted. At the same time, she like, one of the big themes in this book, and it kinda exists in the same gaslamp fantasy that Willow exist I mean, not Willow, that One Dark Window exists in which we're not, like, in medieval times, but we're more, like, moved forward into, like, this, like, gothic, like, Victorian time period, which I do love as a trend, as a side note that's happening in fantasy.
Love it.
But so one of the main things she's trying to do is find a suitor. And because she's in like the noble society and she has to get married and she's trying to pick who she marries not based off of who she loves, but based off of who can give her the best information to continue saving all of these witches, which means she is trying to marry an enemy. Like she is trying to seek out one of her enemies to get together with so that way like he'll like tell her things that she can then information that she can then use. And she ends up courting her best friend's brother who's like the biggest witch hunter out there, okay?
Oh my gosh.
And so I just feel like with champagne problems, one, we have this idea that like yes, these are problems, but these are problems like specifically for rich people. If you
Mhm.
remember, like, the what are my champagne problems that are going around, like, that was a trend for a bit, and, like, they are a noble society,
Right.
and while she is a witch, she's in a position of power where she, like, gets to have sway, gets to save these witches. She's not the one being persecuted because she has a really good, like, alibi for people not suspecting that she's a witch, and so I feel like that comes into play with it. There's this wedding theme in which she's looking for a suitor and there are like potential engagements out there. There's potential like denials of engagements out there without spoiling the plots. But I also loved the lines one for the money, two for the show. I never was ready, so I watch you go. Sometimes you just don't know the answer till someone's on their knees and asks you. And it's not a perfect fit, but there is this idea of, like, as Rune is getting closer to this, like, enemies to lovers storyline of being like, "Can I commit to this? Like, I know that I'm a witch and you're a witch hunter. I want to marry you for the information, but is there something else here? Am I ready? Can I do this?" So,
Right, yeah, it feels like she knows what she has to do, but she doesn't know, like yeah, so she's
yeah.
like, I don't know if this is," and then also, like, the enemies to lovers, it's like, by the time, like, shit hits the fan, you know they're already in love, like,
Yeah.
actually, and so it's like, "Now I'm gonna let you go because I feel
Mhm.
horrible." So, no, I think that's it has the vibes there.
Yes, and it
Alright.
ends in a very interesting way that I think sets book 2 up even
Oh, there's
more.
oh! It's I
Yes,
didn't know it
yes,
was a
yes. It's gonna
series.
be a duology or a
Oh, yes.
trilogy, but I think it's a
I'm
duology.
so down for these
Um,
duologies, people.
I know, it's so much nicer. Speaking of duologies, I'm
Ye
gonna kind of lead the show here for another one, because our next song is Gold Rush, and for that, I have Stolen Air by
Stolen
Holly
Air.
Black. I love Holly Black. I love Elfheim. You have probably heard of the Cruel Prince books before. If you haven't, you're living under a rock and you need to pick them up right now. But The Stolen Heir is the like a sequel series, and so it happens I think 10 years later after the plot of the original Cruel Prince books trilogy, and it follows a new character. Well, this is kind of a spoiler for the series, but he's never really in danger. It follows Oak, the main
Yes.
character from the Cruel Prince series,
He's in
younger
it, but not
brother.
really. Yeah.
Yeah, he's very much a side character in the initial book, so yes, he does survive. But now he's grown up and sexy, and we get to hear his adventure and romance. But the story is not told through Oak's perspective; it is told through Ren's perspective, who is also a very very minor character. in the original trilogies. But Ren faced a very like abusive life, and she actually doesn't. When the book picks up, she's homeless and she lives not in Elfheim but back in the mortal world. And so if you didn't read the first trilogy, I would recommend starting there. But basically,
Yeah.
we have like our land of like the fairies, and then we have like the real world. And so this character was born in the land of the fairies, is a fae, like she's literally blue. But she uses like illusions and stuff to pass in the real world, and she's homeless. But her and Oak like shared a connection when they were children, and then like she kind of had to go on with her rough life. And so the story picks up with Oak actually like kidnapping her because he needs to go on an adventure, like save the day adventure, which is actually traveling through all of our land of fairy, Elfheim, to go up to this northern ice kingdom, which is where Ren, our main character, is actually from. And so Oak forces Ren to assist him on this journey north back to her homelands to get something, which obviously like, forces them to be together and connect again. But all of this time, like Ren is just very insecure, and she had this connection and was friends with this little boy, but now he's grown up and he's this golden prince, and everyone is obsessed with him. In this fantasy world, Oak has something called like I think it's honey speak or something like that, where like people like he just has an insurmountable amount of charm that's actually like magically attached. And so everyone's so obsessed with this beautiful golden prince, and she's kind of just like looking at him from afar, and she's like monstrous. And so I think it really plays into the themes of this song, where it's like I don't like a gold rush. I don't like anticipating my face in a red flush. I don't like that anyone would die to feel your touch. Everybody wants you. And so this idea like everyone wants him, but she obviously has a crush on him. I mean, she won't
Yeah.
admit it, but like obviously she is obsessed with this man.
Mhm.
And so like I just love the imagery of her like thinking she's a monster and looking at like this golden
Yeah.
shined princess for Gold Rush. I think it works very well.
Yes, and I love because of also who, like, Oak's his name's Oak, right? You said that.
Yeah.
Oak. Yeah, Oak. I'm like, I read Cruel Prince, but it's been a while. When the line that's like, "What it must be like to grow up that beautiful with your hair falling down in peace and plays like dominoes." Kind of like he has
Yeah.
that charisma that's like,
Mhm.
wow, must be so great to be naturally beautiful and not freaking blue.
Yeah, and all of the art of him has these like long golden locks. So like it fits pretty
Love
well.
it. I love Gold Rush. Okay, so our next one is "'Tis the Damn Season." Guys,
Yes.
this is such a funny, book rec because we're totally switching gears into a very, like,
Yes.
contemporary, like, teeny bopper, I should really say, read.
We
I'm
need a break.
recommending we need a break, yeah,
You always need a palate cleanser.
and this really is the palate cleanser for you. This is better than the movies, and when I was thinking of a book rec, "'Tis the Damn Season" is so high school coded because this
Yeah.
song is literally about going home for the holiday season and, like, connecting with that, like, high school love or that, like, that one that kind of got away because your life took off and you had to leave that town, but, "Hey, I'm in town for the weekend, so, like, 'tis the damn season, like, let's ride around
Yeah.
like we used to," and this book follows Liz and Wes, and this is an enemies to lovers plot line. They are neighbors. They have this tit for tat always over something stupid like a parking spot. And while this doesn't have the go away and come back home to your hometown, it has the idea of we hate each other, but we know each other so well. So, you know, fuck it, let's get and like fake date. So there's like a whole fake dating plot in this, which, every teen girl loves, including this 20 something year old teenager. Um, and
It's so
so
cute.
it's such a cute read. It's so well written. If you love Taylor Swift, there's so many Taylor Swift lyrics in this book. Um, the whole book, because it's better than the movies, it's based around like 90s and early 2000s rom-coms, along with the main character Liz loves music. And so there's like playlists in this book, and Taylor Swift, of course, is on like all of them. So I have to read some lyrics, even though I basically already did. I'm staying at my parents' house, and the road not taken looks real good now. Time flies, messy as the mud on your truck tires. Wes drives a truck, and it's always messy. Now I'm missing your smile. Hear me out. We could just ride around, and the road not taken looks real good now. And it always leads to you in my hometown. I haven't read the second book to this, but once again, kind of follows, from what I understand, the same plot of like, at the end of the day, no matter how far or how hard we try, it always ends up, that girl next door and that boy next door that, you just grew up with. And it just has all of those, like, you know, it's like that the people you drive around town with growing up, and like go get McDonald's or go to the gas station and get like a
Yeah.
slushie, like. And so it just gives those vibes. I don't really read a lot of those types of books, but I just was like, we have to recommend Better Than Movies. If you haven't read it yet, Lynn Painter is it's just such an easy, fun read.
Yeah, and it really feels, like, nostalgic in a way, especially
Yeah.
with its tie into, like, old 90s and early 2000s movies. I actually just recommended this to my mom. I was like, "There's no smut in it, mom, I'm sorry," because, that's all she reads, but I was like, "But
It's
I
very
think that you
romantic.
would like it." I was like, "It's high school, but it's so, like, butterflies, nostalgic, throwing you back into that time," which is, I think, exactly
Absolutely.
what
This
Taylor wanted out of 'Tis the Damn Season.
Absolutely, yeah, I felt kinda creepy, like, totally crushing on Wes, but I love Wes. Alright, so now on a very, sad note, we're at Tolerate It, people, so prepare yourselves.
This is one of my favorite songs on
Yeah, I know, me
this
too.
album. I love it so much. And it's funny because Taylor Swift said in an interview that she based Tolerated off of one of the classics. Do you remember which one?
The thing is, I don't know about Tolerate It. I know, Marcus, Sam, or Sophia, or whatever, that's based off of a oh, 'cause I mean Cassandra, and that
Oh,
one
yeah.
does.
No, because that's based off of Greek mythology. No,
Yeah. I don't
Tolerate
know
It,
I don't know what Tolerate It's based off of.
Rebecca. Okay.
Oh, Rebecca. She
But
loves that book. She loves
yes.
Rebecca.
So I did know, I was
Oh,
like,
wait,
it's
yes,
funny.
true. She read that and then wrote Tolerate It. Yes, I remember
Yep.
that interview. Yep.
And that's not the book we're recommending, but I did wanna throw that out there,
Absolutely.
that it actually does have an exact, inspiration of a book, but the book that we are recommending instead is Circe by Madeline Miller. This is if One Dark Window isn't my favorite book of the year, this one is. You guys know that I have been raving about this book ever since I read it. Her use of prose and storytelling, this book made me cry, and I like never cry when I'm reading. It's just so beautiful and heartbreaking, and it's really focused on Circe's story as a woman. And if you don't know, Circe is a character from Greek mythology. So there's not much to spoil about this book because you likely already have heard her story or parts of it. And Madeline Miller has a degree in Greek mythology. So she does she's very well versed in the narrative that she's portraying. But in Circe, she is trapped on an island because of things that she did and because she's a woman, so she gets punished more. She is considered the first witch, and on this island, she's never allowed to leave. However, people do come to the island. And one of the frequent visitors that she has is Odysseus himself. You have heard of the Odyssey. You probably read it in high school. You probably didn't get it as much as it is here. But there is this idea of Odysseus as a storyteller, and Madeline Miller actually portrays Odysseus very strongly in his character. If you've read Song of Achilles, you would have seen him there as well. Um, as this storyteller and adventurer and but there's just this idea of he comes and they have a relationship, they have a like a romantic relationship when he comes and he visits her. But one, he's on his big traveling journey to return to his wife and children. And two, there is this like position of power because Odysseus is always coming to this woman who's trapped on an island. And so her only source of news, of entertainment, of what's going on in the world outside of her is him. And so he holds all of this like power and control, and you can see that in Tolerated. I love the I greet you with a battle hero's welcome. I take your indiscretions all in good fun. So I mean, battle heroes welcome. Like what feels more like Greek
Greek mythology
mythology
than
than
that.
that? Knowing all of that history, but also the indiscretions all in good fun because she can never admit that they like are something. She always has to like she's stuck playing like the cool nonchalant girl
Doesn't
whenever he comes
affect
to
me.
visit, like as a
Mhm.
way of like trying to like guard her heart and her emotions. And then of course, favorite best part of the song, while you were out there building other worlds, where was I? Where was that man who threw blankets over my barbed wire? I made you my temple, my mural, my sky. Now I'm begging for footnotes in the story of your life, drawing hearts in the byline, always taking up too much space or time.
You assume I'm fine, but what would
What
you
would you do if
do if I?
Guys, I love this song so much. But if you think about it, like Odysseus is literally like the author, poet
He
of
literally is.
the Odyssey. He's literally a man who's out there collecting stories and pushing her aside and, not like, oh, like it literally hits so hard. And there's times when he acts like he's protecting her, like they are like he is there for her, and but then he turns her away at the same time, and she's literally like, you're all I have because I'm trapped, and it's so heartbreaking. And this book is beautiful and amazing, and this time of the year it might be hard to read. I read this in the spring, but I think it's so important, and I love this book so much, and everyone
Yeah.
should read it.
Yes. All right. Moving on.
Yes.
We have a fun
Vibe switch
song.
again.
It's time for it again. I have like a bunch of things we could add in here. I was having such a hard time. No body, no body, no crime. This is like our little like listen, let's kill him. So I have a couple here, and these are all like very strong female leads who are very
Yes.
sneaky and is trying to play the system and not get caught. And so, whether in this book they actually kill people or not, that's up for you to find out. But I have for our like mystery people, I have the house across the lake. This takes place at a lake and it follows a widowed actress trying no, it follows someone who's watching um something go down between a husband and wife, and she feels the need to step
Ooh.
in. And does she? Does
Is
she not?
that is that not the song?
That's literally the song. Um, and she totally like you could. I'm like, do you have a crush on the like? It's like the house across the lake that this girl watches, and she's like,
Oh.
I need to protect her. He's gonna hurt her. Blah 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 blah. Blah. And so you follow this, and it's like it gets like paranormal at the end, which is crazy. But this is we have reviewed Riley Sager before. I will say this to the day I die. I love Riley Sager. I think this writing is amazing. The only issue I did have for this to watch out for is the way he kind of writes a woman is kind of like not
Yeah.
always amazing, but like it is what it
I've
is.
heard this is the worst one. So if
This
you
is
can
the
get
worst
through
one.
this, it's
You can
all
do it.
uphill, baby.
Yeah. The next one I have to recommend is tried and true. We have Where the Crawdads Sing. Okay, so this book and
Obviously.
this book, the lyrics that really stuck out with me here that you'll keep an eye out for is good thing my daddy made me get a boating license when I was 15, and I've cleaned enough houses to know how to cover up a scene. Good thing his mistress took out a big life insurance policy. They think she did it, but they just can't prove it. these books are strictly on water, and the main character drives boats, and because they drive boats, it helps them. Let's just say that. So like direct, direct, direct.
Direct from the source.
I don't have this book, but I did for my fantasy girls, and
I should have grabbed it. I didn't.
I recommend this one. I don't necessarily recommend this series as a whole. Will I continue to read it? Sure, but I'm sure you know it. Powerless. I just think the idea of like her dad in this book teaches her how to compensate and like fake having a power should let her get ahead. And the main goal of this book is basically there's like a social system. I don't want to get into too much. People already know, and it could take forever to explain. But there's a social system, and she has to fake having this like psychic ability to get by. And
Yes,
her
because you
goal,
either have magic or you're
yeah,
dead.
or you're dead. And so her goal is to basically like kill the king, get inside, fuck shit up, all of that. And I just feel like my daddy taught me this, and that, and good thing I know because she's like has been kind of slumming in her whole life. Like she knows that back end like psychological shit
Yeah.
that she can kind of, slide in there. So that's your more like fantasy rack with that. But guys, like House Across the Lake, Crawdads, like that is spot freaking on. Spot on. I was so excited. I was like, I got a book.
I got one actually. This is actually perfect. I figured you were gonna put in Where the Crawdads Sing for that, which is why I left it open for you. But the fact that you like what you just said with House Across the Lake, like you really had two that were perfect. And I do see Powerless. I can see
Yeah.
that. I might not like the book, but I can see it.
Yeah, that's why I was like, and I'm gonna throw in Powerless, and I guess Red Queen would fit there too.
You know what? Any really though, like any of these dystopians where it's like I have to join the rebellion to revolt against the king, and where it's like on the low key end though, like in the beginning of this series and not like towards the end where we're at armies, like I feel like you could see
Yeah.
that. But I liked what you said about like the dad passing the information along because that was a very big part of Peyton's character.
Yeah.
Next, we have Happiness, which has actually been trending on TikTok again. I think it
Really?
just hit its like most streamed day ever
This
the
is
other
my
week.
third favorite song on the album. Yep.
Really? That's
The
interesting.
lyrics? Are you kidding me?
The lyrics.
Here we go.
But yeah, so people are using the Haunted by the Look in My Eyes, I Would Have Loved You for a Lifetime, and then they're like cropping it to show pictures of them like looking at like their exes, and you can just see like the love in their face, but like obviously like it didn't happen. And it's so
That's so
wild to
sad.
see all of these girls' pictures and like looking at it, like even without the lyrics, like you can just tell that they are smitten with these men, and then they always end up assholes. Anyways, so for this, I do not have it on me physically. It is on KU, and I think some of the other books we've been talking about are as well. But for Happiness, I have A Dowry of Blood. I actually just finished this one, and I would recommend it to a lot of people, especially those pressed for their Goodreads, because it's only like 230
Oh
pages, which
shit.
is amazing. So A Dowry of Blood is the story of Dracula's first wife, of Dracula's bride, and it's told in second person, in which the bride Constata, she is writing these letters to Dracula, and so they never say the word Dracula, they never say his name in the entire thing, but she's just talking to him. So she'll be like, "I loved you, my lord," and she's like, but like everything's the you is Dracula, if
Oh
that
my
makes
god, it's
sense.
like Hamnet. They did that in Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
so
that.
good.
It's like doesn't give him the autonomy. It's like,
Yeah, like strip away his name. I
yeah.
love it. Because it's really focused on honestly like the cruelty of this man and abuse. I mean, obviously like Dracula it's an inspired story, but
Yeah.
The prose of this is so good. Like, these sentences are punchy. I will say that we spend a lot of time in summary mode rather than scene. So if you're not a writer, a summary mode is when we're like pulled back from the narrative and there isn't like dialogue or anything, but it's like this happened, then this happened, then this happened. Um and like cuz it starts in before the Black Plague and moves up to like almost present day, like I think like the 19 like 40s or something is what it moves forward. So we move a lot of time in very short pages, but the scenes that are there where you like are in the character's head and there's dialogue and people are talking are so poignant. And it's so good, but the lyrics that I pulled are past the blood and bruise, past the curses and cries, beyond the terror in the nightfall. I mean, they're vampires, guys.
They're vampires.
And then I pulled the line that I mentioned earlier with the TikTok trend, haunted by the look in my eyes. I would have loved you for a lifetime. Like when she when he transforms her into a vampire, she is smitten by him. He is her world and he doesn't let her like leave and she loves this man so much. And then the plot happens and you're like, "Oh my god." I also pulled when did our lessons start to look like weapons pointed at my deepest hurt, because one of the biggest themes in this is her realizing that like at first she's defending his abusive actions and saying, "Well, he loves me, like he's doing it because he loves me, he wants to protect me." And then watching that like crumple and be like, "Well, no, like you're doing this as like a weapon pointed at me."
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have all of the sad recs, but
That's that was such a good one. Yeah, Happiness is like my third favorite on the album. Like
aw.
Evermore is like my fave. I just love the lyrics and they're just so poetic. So continuing this, this rack came to me in the middle of the night. Cause
Mm.
I was like, the next song is Dorothea, which
Yes.
everyone says about Selena Gomez and whatever.
Yeah.
So I am recommending, because I think it's the perfect time to read this series if you haven't yet, because I think it's just gonna take off and who knows what the
Mhm.
future holds for us. But that it's part of the Throne of Glass series. It's Assassin's Blade.
Your covers are so much prettier than mine.
Oh, that's right. I have the like Lit Joy ones.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
have the OGs. Well, kind
Those
of.
are expensive, girl. You could probably pay for a
I
lot with those.
know.
Oh, I see it's ripped. Okay, we're
I
gonna move
bought
on.
them like right before all of the new covers came out. I mean, I know you have a special edition, but
Yeah, I have the new ones too somewhere. But okay, so go with me here. I was looking at these lyrics and I was like, what does this remind me of? And
mhm.
in this book, this is actually a prequel to the whole series. There's fights about when to read it, but I am going to just kind of
Just don't read it when I read it. I read it like after book 2, which is the worst time, but I was just going to DNF the series if I didn't. So,
uh, yeah, you gotta kind of fight through this one, but it's really important the story. And if for all my like Sam people out there, this book is all about our main character. Oh my god, I literally Selena. Uh, sorry everyone, if you know you know. This is about her life before the Throne of Glass like
the
universe
first
opens
book.
up.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
so this book, Dorothea to me, is all about like I know who you really are, but are you the same
Mhm.
person you used to be back when we were kids?
Yeah.
And this book kind of reminds me, and it feels like Sam's perspective of his best friend, lover, like
Mhm.
that first love of if I, like if I was still in your life, like would you still be like the way you were when I don't know, I just feel like this
Yeah.
perspective of like looking back at times. And
Mhm.
Selena as a character in this series just goes through so many phases.
Yeah.
Let me read some lyrics and to connect the dots. Oh, this place is the same as it ever was, but you won't like it that way. It's never too late to come back to my side. The stars in your eyes shine brighter and two below. So they live, Sam and Selena are assassins, hence why it's called the
Yes.
Assassin's Blade. And so they're in this like assassin's like den, and it's
Yeah.
like really toxic environment. It's evil. It's just sad to read about. The town in general that they're in is sucky, and so there's kind of this sort of shared trauma they have throughout their story in the series that's kind of like this place is the same as it ever was. And one day when Sam's not in Selena's life anymore, I just think of her saying that, like, this place is the same as it ever was. Like, if you were by my side, maybe you would feel better. And
Mhm.
so it's sort of this like tragic, like, wow, like we'll never be the same as we were when we were those young assassins together.
Yeah.
And so like I said, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but like I said, this is the prequel to the main series. The
Yeah.
second you start, like, when you read The Assassin's Blade, you already know what's going to happen because if you read it correctly, you already have an idea and it's lined up. So, and let me read some more. Oh, you're a queen selling dreams, and if you're ever tired of being known for who you are, you know that you'll always know me. But are you still the same soul I met under the bleachers? I guess I'll never know, and you'll go on with the show. So, Selena in this book series is constantly faking her identity to become
Yeah.
something and sell this idea of who she is.
She has, like,
Um,
3 names in book 1.
she literally has, yeah, like she has so many different identities, and she's like selling this idea and becoming this person that's not her, but to fit into this. And I just see Sam like basically being like, I know who you really are. Like, you
Yeah, like,
can't
I knew you
fool
as a
me.
kid.
Like, you can't fool me, girl. And so like, are you the same soul that I'm underneath the bleachers? And it's like, I don't know. I just felt like that song was so nostalgic for like this
Yeah.
book and their story, and so um give it a give it a read. If you haven't read Throne of Glass yet, now is your time because time is a
Yeah.
ticking.
I
Um,
know all the influencers are picking up ACOTAR now, so
before you know it.
it's only next. No, I really love that. I considered putting for this actually One Dark Window, because the main character Elspeth has a cousin who she's really close to,
Yes, that would
and
work perfectly.
quickly in the plot of the book, the cousin kind of falls to like
Deteriorates.
yeah, to like the greed of the world, and they kind of end up on opposite sides. And there's this idea of like, hey, like, are you still like who I was friends with?
Yeah, that's a great comparison. So moving on here, I want to get through this
Yes.
next one, Coney Island, which is probably like one of my least favorite songs on Evermore. Um, so I chose Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. If you haven't read that yet, it's my favorite TJR book. It tells the story of the Riva clan, and if you've read TJR in the past, you totally know who the Rivas are. It's basically about the marriage between June and Mick Riva, the birth of their children, the many affairs, separations, and the reconciliations, and the tragedies that follow. In this book, like it starts out telling about how Mick's dream, from the very start, was to become a famous musician, which we know if you've read Daisy Jones or Seven Husbands that he does. But in the
Yes.
process, he wants to give this life to June and his kids. Um, and the whole it's centered around this like beach house in Malibu. And so I think that this is like Coney Island, the track Coney Island is all about basically having this very affluent crazy life and kind of regrouping to like it's kind of like Dorothea almost because it says, "And do you miss the rogue who coaxed you into paradise and left you there?" And I think that really relates back to June being alone in this like they got the fame, they got the power, they have the Malibu house, but now he's gone, and she's not a part of his life anymore because he left her there on this paradise, which of course Taylor relates back to Coney Island, which is funny because Coney Island is kind of a piece of shit. Okay, and then also in this story, it's really about Mick's kids, but
Yeah.
I think this story in Coney Island relates directly to Mick and June's story. Mick makes his fame and his career his centerfold, which is like a big imagery in this. in this
Mhm.
song, forgetting all about his family. This man literally does neglect his family in this book, and it's about what are those kids in the family going to do to like make that right. But and I'm sitting on a bench in Coney Island wondering where did my baby go, aka also my dad. The fast times, the bright lights, the merry-go. Sorry for not making you my centerfold. The question pounds in my head. What's a lifetime of achievement if I pushed you to the edge? But you were too polite to leave me. Coney Island, we know, is a song going back and forth between two people. And I feel
Mhm.
like this is like a rock star saying to his kids, like, I'm sorry for this. Like, why are you too polite to leave? Like, and then the kids being like, where did you go? Why am I not your centerfold? Like, dad,
Yeah.
like, what the fuck? And so it's like the
Mm.
fallout of those kids. And so it's the kids putting that all together and like having the shared trauma with their dad. And it is an app. This I cannot wait for this. This is gonna be the best fucking movie ever. It's my favorite TJR book. It's so good. It's not as sad as I was making it sound, but it kind of is. So highly recommend Malibu Rising, Coney Island. A little bit of a stretch, but we did it.
All right, guys. Sorry for a little bit of technical difficulties. My camera has decided she's done for, so
She's
we
done.
have switched to the web camera to finish out this episode. But if I am basked in a red glow or significantly lower quality, that is why. I promise I will get a new battery and we will be back and ready to go next episode.
Yes.
But in the meantime, we have more tracks to cover.
Yes, we do.
Continuing on with Ivy. This is a little bit of a hard recommendation to do because it's about cheating and
Yeah,
an
we don't read
affair,
those books.
especially not in our fantasy novels. I
Yeah.
considered doing like a love triangle situation, but then I was like, I do know one book in which the main character is hooking up with someone who is not her husband, and that is A Fate Inked in Blood, because instead
Yes.
she's hooking up with her son-in-law.
Yeah, it's a little awkward, but it makes sense once you read the book, people. Do not worry. This was Aubrey's vote for this year for the good choice. So she likes
Yes.
it. You're into that kind of shit, girl, It is what it is.
Some
All right.
wildflowers in the attic situation. No, no, no. Okay, it makes more sense. She is forced into an arranged marriage.
Yes.
This is a fantasy book heavily inspired by Norse mythology.
Vikings,
It's
girl.
super cool, and basically our main character, they like certain people can have like the blessings of the different
Yes.
Norse gods, and she is one. She is our shield maiden, and basically the uh gosh, I think you pronounce it with a Y. Jarl?
Freya.
No, no.
Uh
Oh, no, no. I was thinking
oh.
of the guy's
It's a
name.
Jarl.
Yeah, I know. And I someone told us when we read this book back in the spring how to pronounce it, and I just forget.
Jarl. I used to Jarl, but I think it's
Because
Jarl.
the love interest name is Bjorn, and you
Bjorn.
pronounce the J like a Y, and so I think that's what you're supposed to do for Jarl.
Yeah,
Either way,
Jarl.
basically our like top like leader of the clan has forced himself to I think he didn't even really want it either, but because she is this shield maiden, which is this like mythical thing of tales, he has taken her on as his second wife, something that his first wife is not happy about, but is willing to sacrifice for the clan. I actually loved the bitchy first wife. She's one of my
I
favorite
love her.
characters.
She reminds me of like if this was today, like the Melania Trump of does she not?
Awesome.
Like I was like the whole it's just like that sort of just like sassy, like I'll do
Yeah.
it whatever I need to do, but I'm not happy
Yeah.
about it. Like she
Yeah.
just reminds me of that.
Oh my gosh, the
I don't
edits
know
of
why.
Melania Trump having to decorate for Christmas again at the White House next year have taken over. So fucking funny.
Yeah, it's so
We have
funny.
to
But
make light of our situations
of
at
course.
times. But
So what about some lyric? What lyrics do we think fits
yes.
the
So
story?
lyrics for this, because Freya is kind of, there's like a guard trope where her technical son-in-law is the one who has to protect her on her like
Yes.
journey quest to become this shield maiden. And so they start, having a little romance. This is a romantasy.
Oh yeah.
But okay, so we have my pain fits in the palm of your freezing hand, taking mine, but it's been promised to another. Multiple things that I like about this. One, obviously, this idea of being promised to another. Their romance is super taboo because it's her fucking son-in-law, but he's her age.
Yeah.
And her hand is literally like she's married to his dad.
Mhm.
But I also like this idea of like my pain fits in the palm of your freezing hand. They share kind of similar traumas and like the weight of the world being on your shoulders as chosen ones in this book. And obviously it's Norse, so it's a little cold. So the freezing I liked. And then also, so yeah, it's a fire. It's a goddamn blaze in the dark, and you started it. You
You
started it.
started it. Yeah.
I think that fits any fantasy book,
It
but
feels like a war vibe too. You know what I mean? And this
yes.
whole book is a battle. It's just raid, raid,
Yes.
raid, 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 raid.
Yes. And their interactions kind of kicks off the plot of this book because he forces her to reveal her hand as the shield maiden. And so this kind of like, oh yeah, like something like it's passionate, it's spicy between us. I really recommend this book. The
Yes, read
prose
it.
was fairly good. I mean, it's not Cersei or One Dark Window, but I think she was on par. And I have been considering reading Bridge Kingdom by Daniel L. Jensen. So you'll have to let me know if you have read it, how that one
Yes.
goes.
Yes. Okay, I didn't read this next book, but it's on my it's on my wish list for this Christmas. Wish list for this Christmas.
Wishes
And
of this
Cowboy
Christmas.
Like Me wraps up my top 3 Evermore songs. So we have
Yay.
Tolerate It, Happiness, and Cowboy Like Me. All very
Okay.
depressing, but we fit a vibe with Evermore. So I'm so excited to see how Mortal Dark relates to my fave.
Yes. So we have Immortal Dark. This just came out this fall. This is a dark academia vampire book. It deals very heavily in like these themes of absolution and truth and evil, and it's delicious. There's like a enemies to lovers as vampires. Oh, it's so good. But what I liked about Cowboy Like Me in regards to this song is of course the you had some tricks up your sleeves, takes one to know one, you're a cowboy like me, because I feel like in this song, while Taylor is relating this to like fame and ambition and greed, I want to take that idea of like I'm bad and I can recognize what's bad in you. I can recognize that we're committing the same sins because we are one of the same. You are a cowboy like me. And in this, Keaton finds herself uh much more like the vampire, not even man, the vampire that she hates. And I also like the tricks up your sleeve because this starts out very heavily enemies to the point where like they're trying to kill one another as they are forced to live
That's
in this
great.
same magical house together. And then I also have We Could Be the Way Forward, and I'll Know I'll Pay for It. In this, Kidan is very she wants to eradicate all evil, and the book starts with her having already committed a murder. And she believes herself to be a part of that evil. And so her mission is to try and kill the vampire before she then like kills herself, because she believes that that is what like absolution is. That's what you need to do to evil. You need to root it all out. And as the book goes on, she kind of wrestles with that, and she has to keep like changing what evil means to her,
Mm.
and what like a path, like in the beginning the path forward is just that everyone, all evil is rooted out and killed. And so like what that way forward is like keeps changing in her mind as she is confronted with the plot, but I really liked that. And then finally I have And the skeletons in both of our closets plotted hard to fuck this up. I love the way she sings those lines.
Mhm.
But they both have passed, and this is enemies to lovers, so you know that like they're gonna eventually hit lovers.
It's
I don't think
coming.
that's a
Yeah.
spoiler.
Yeah.
But they never like hit it the way you think that they might. I don't know. It's very tension filled. It's enemies to lovers the way I like it, where once they start like fucking around together, it's not now lovey dovey we were never actually enemies ever type situation. They like that tension stays alive throughout the book, and their relationship gets fucked up many times over.
I'm
So,
excited to read that book. So
Immortal
yeah,
Dark
more
by Tiggy
dark.
Skirma. Highly recommend.
Okay, so next we have Long Story Short. All right,
Yes.
I put down Quicksilver for this because this was one of the, we're like, what are we supposed to do for this one? I actually had one dark window here, and then I was like, actually, that does not fit at all.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm gonna read some lyrics and maybe we can talk about this book. It's
Yeah.
been a while. We have reviewed this one. I'm really excited for the second book coming out soon. So faithfully, I tried to pick my battles till the battle picked me. Misery, like the war of words. I
Yes.
shouted in my sleep, and he passed right by. I was in the alley, surrounded all sides. The knife cuts both ways. If the shoe fits, walk in it till your high heels break. Long story short, I survived. So this is like it's not just a love story, but it kind of is. Like this really is a
Mhm.
romantasy about finding comfort in kindred souls who can make you forget, at least temporarily, about the chaos in the world. And in
Yeah.
this story, there's like different worlds and dimensions, and they kind of
Mhm.
like time travel a little bit, but not in like this like Doctor Who kind of way you're thinking. It's kind of like it's not really like that. They travel
Y
through this
yeah.
Quicksilver kind of like bath situation. I always
They're
imagine
kind
like
of
a
like
pool.
plane hopping rather than time hopping.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. And so this girl grows up in this society with like this, class tiered system, and she is like always fighting for her goddamn life.
Yes.
Like she is always like escaping death. This girl escapes death in the first chapter, and it's like, I don't know about that.
It
Like,
opens super sci-fi.
yeah, and like at one point, this girl's guts are like hanging out of her, and she's like, oh, if the like the line that said the knife cuts both ways, if the shoe fits, walk in it, she's like, okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
like do this.
Mhm.
And he's passing by, rare as the glimmer of a comet in the sky, and he feels like home. So of course she meets someone in this book, and it's kind of an enemies to lovers kind of
Yeah.
situation, not really. And like, yeah, and she finds this like found family
Mhm.
within his world, but he's kind of dealing with something similar like she is. And so this kind of this like shared trauma situation. And long story short, she gets to the other side and figures out like what her destiny is. And so I'm just like trying to reach here. I was like, okay, here we go.
It's not a perfect fit, but I think it's the best fit we have for
Like I
sure.
try to pick my battles, so the battle picked me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like she's tried in this world, she really tries to play the system, and then the
Yeah.
system plays her, and she doesn't know what to
Yeah.
do about it. And so I was
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. Anyways, moving on.
For that one, I will say everyone's obsessed with it. It's super fucking long.
It's
Like I have to give this warning. This
it's
book
so
is
long.
it's overwritten, I think a bit. I had to skim some of the reading it, but the story as a whole is really cool.
It could have been condensed, but yeah, it's very long.
Yes. And it's becoming traditionally published. So actually, we don't have book 2 coming out super soon because I think next fall or in the spring, book 1 comes out again, but
Oh
this
shit.
time published, and
Who
that is when I will buy it and own it
who
when I can
she
get it.
wrote Rachel oh no. Who
Hmm?
One Dark Windows written by Rachel Gillig?
Yes, this is
Okay,
Callie
that
Hart.
makes sense. The Night and the
Yes,
Moth is coming up
Night
next.
and the
Okay.
Moth is coming out, and I'm
6
so
months away.
excited. 6
Okay.
months away. But Callie Hart is just
Yes.
got picked up for traditionally published, which is super cool,
Woohoo!
super exciting for her. I think it's also on Audible though right now, the indie version. I don't know. I'm very excited for that and to get her on my shelf once I can get it in a hardcover.
Heck yeah. All right, we have
Next,
Marjorie next.
Marjorie, I
Throwing it
love
back. I
the
love this
vibes
song.
of this song. However, it's hard to pick a book for this, but there is something. I have not read this book. I actually thought I might have owned it, but I don't. So we're going to recommend Little Woman. I have seen the Greta Gerwig 2019 film, and I'd recommend that to everyone. It made me cry. I am obsessed with that. It was beautiful. It was perfection. I have here, and I've seen this is a popular like TikTok edit, I guess, where the lines never be so kind you forget to be clever, and then never be so clever you forget to be kind. And then they kind of take that towards the characters because Jo, one of the characters, she's very clever, but sometimes that can like make her not kind because she like puts that above. Never be so kind you forget to be clever. That is Beth. She's so kind-hearted that but she kind of shrinks in
Yeah.
herself and doesn't let her like talents and intelligence shine. If you don't know the plot of this is a classic, guys. It
Yes.
follows our four little women in like the late 1800s, and it kind of just follows them from children to adulthood as they wrestle with life and love and beautiful themes. It's really great. There's
I
some
saw
spoilery things in here that we won't
yeah.
say.
I saw Taylor walking into the Chiefs game on
Yeah.
TikTok, and the guy, the guard, their bodyguard, who's like, "Move out of the way," and she goes, "Move out of the way, please," to
Yes.
him, like, "Be polite." And someone commented like, "Never be so polite, you forget your power. Never wield such power, you forget to be polite." Like that is like Taylor
Yeah.
through and through, and I see that come through in Little Women, and I don't
Mhm.
know, I feel like it's kind of like a these are the lessons you learn as a woman of like
Yeah.
how to convey yourself without, it's the time, it's the tales old time of like, oh, she's a bitch, she's not a bitch enough, like she's pretty
Yes.
but she's not natural enough, wear makeup, well, don't
Yes.
wear enough makeup. It's like that thing, and I think Little Women kind of like encompasses that. I mean, of course the song's about her grandmother, but
But I think the generational stuff does come into play a bit because you think
yeah,
about it, like, this is the lessons from another woman in her life, and it's bestowed upon her, and there is themes in Little Women, like, of the mom, and then the one of the characters has, like, kids, and it's like, what does that mean in family?
absolutely. Yeah,
I love it.
my favorite lyric from
Mhm.
Marjorie is, "I should have asked you questions. I should have asked you how to be because every scrap of you would be taken from me."
Oh,
Oh, it kills me. But let's move
so
on to
heartbreaking. Yes.
something kind of
Something
like
better. The
cheeky,
mood shifts
a
we
little
have here.
cheeky. The next song is Closure. And this song is slow burn for me on Evermore, but I love it because it's like ba 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 ba. It's like it's
Yeah,
such
very
like a
upbeat for
it,
what it
it's
is.
yeah, and it's kind of like a catchy sort of like backhanded like, yeah, well, I don't need your closure, like I'm fine, like I'm doing good, like whatever.
Mhm.
And so I chose Funny Story, Emily Henry, for this one because this came out this year, and we
M
really
Love.
we loved this. So
Yes.
this story is, I hate explaining it because it's so back ended. I'm sure everyone knows about it. It's about two characters, and basically they swapped partners because our main character, what the heck's her name? Daphne? No, yeah, Daphne.
Daphne? Heather? I don't know. Her names suck, guys. Emily
Yeah,
Henry, I
they're
love
first.
her. But we've talked about this
Yeah,
before.
so the main lady, I believe her name's Daphne. Um, in this, her fiance basically is like, "Hey, I'm leaving you for my best woman friend that I told you not to worry about, but guess what? I love her. We're gonna go on a sexcation." So that best friend of her fiance, she
Yes,
ends up
it's
moving
Daphne.
in with her boyfriend Miles, and he is like Nick from New Girl. It is like, so they live together. So basically, like the best, like her ex fiance and his friend are together. They're engaged to be wed now, and this poor girl has to move in with this other guy because she has no place to go. She's not from this town.
Yeah.
Um, and that's just kind of, they're like roommates, and of
Mhm.
course it's sort of this like trauma bonding to
Yeah.
lovers kind of like plot line. And I picked Closure as
Mhm.
our main character is kind of speaking to her ex fiance. Kind of like, like if he saw her around town, and we get this in the book, he gets really jealous of her and her happiness as she starts to move on and realize she never wanted him anyways.
Yeah.
Um, and so the quotes, oh my God, the lyrics I picked was, "It's been a long time, and seeing the shape of your name still spells out pain. It wasn't right the way it all went down. Looks like you know that now." Kind of like, yeah, like when he realized that the way he dumped her and like broke up, when he was like, "Hey,
Horrible,
you're
which
gonna
is in the
need your,"
first chapter. And you're like,
he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna need you to have this stuff moved out."
yeah.
And then I know I'm just a wrinkle in your new life. Staying friends would iron it out so nicely. Guilty, guilty, reaching out across the sea that you put between you and me. But it's fake and oh so unnecessary. So many times in this book, like they go to a party and she like sees him and he like tries
Mhm.
to be like, "Oh, hey girl." And she's like, "You're guilty. Like stop trying to reach out and try to like be friends
Yeah.
with me when you literally dumped me for your best friend on, may I add, his bachelor trip."
Yeah, like, we were gonna get married, bitch.
So I just thought that was like a backhanded funny story.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
This was,
Yes.
like, my favorite romance book ever. I really
It's
enjoyed
so
it.
good.
I think we had it in our folklore video for
Oh,
Mirror
really?
Ball because
Yay.
of Daphne and, like, other themes in the book. So that's really cool. I love that.
Yes.
Finally, we have my favorite song on Evermore, the title track. I love this song. Actually, I hated it at first, and then I kept listening to it,
It
and
live.
now I'm obsessed. Like, it's one of the songs where Jacob's like, "You have to stop playing it. It's gotta stop." This is definitely my most listened to song on the
Aw.
album. Maybe it's probably close with "Tolerate It" because I like "Tolerate It" first, but since I have
This is slow
come to
burn.
love it,
It's like Cowboy
yes,
Like
this
Me for
slow
me.
burn.
Like Cowboy Like Me was my slow burn, and now I'm like obsessed with it. So yes, Evermore. I put down Wayward,
Yes. I
because
think
I
that
think
fits so much better. I
yeah,
actually had Wayward up at closure, and I saw you moved it down, and I was like, "No, that's perfect."
yeah. I just finished this book 2 nights ago, and I was
Okay.
thinking, and I was doing this list, and I was like looking at the lyrics, like trying connect with the books, the literature, and the lyrics, and Taylor, and all of that, and I just feel like this book fits. There's some reaches, but I feel like it
No, I
fits
think it's
the
perfect.
idea. So Wayward is a what we have coined is magical realism, but really more so historical fiction
I
slash
looked it up.
fantasy.
It's historical fiction.
Oh, really? Good.
Yeah.
I knew Aubrey would do her research. It's totally historical fiction. It follows
Mhm.
3 generations of witches. It's more so a family over probably from the 1600s all the way up to really present day, and it
Mhm.
follows 3 women in the family, and it goes through their story and how it all wraps together. And it is such an all-encompassing book. We need to wrap up this episode, so I don't want to go too much into it, but just know it brings in the natural world and the sense of womanhood and then trauma. There's
Yeah.
huge trigger warnings on this
Yes,
book.
please look them
Um,
up.
I think the
It's a lot in this
storytelling
book.
and the way the writing is holds it in such a delicate way, but it
Mhm.
will break you if that is, something that does trigger you. So be aware of that. But we're here to connect the book and the imagery to the lyrics,
Yes.
and I imagine in Wayward there's this cabin, like cottage. It's really a cottage
Cottage.
that all of these women at some point after crazy things have happened in their life, they resort back to. And
Mhm.
sometimes just by chance. It's not because they know about it. It's just they end up here and then they
Yeah.
learn about the previous women that came before them. And it's really just quite magical. And so I feel like Evermore, I had a feeling so peculiar that the pain would be for Evermore. All of these women have experienced in their own way crazy trauma,
Yeah.
and the idea of this Evermore, there's this imagery with a crow on the front cover that Aubrey held up,
Mhm.
you can see, and the Evermore, and it kind of gives me like Edgar Allan Poe vibes, like
Kinda,
this song
yeah.
does, like that, just that nauseating pain that will never go away that
Yeah.
they have to
Just,
deal
like,
with. So
sitting in it. Yeah.
yes, and I was catching my breath, barefoot in the wildest winter, catching my death. There's literally a scene in the book of a woman running, like, barefoot in the
In the
winter
snow.
woods. I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my gosh," and the idea of, like, coming back to this place, it's called the Wayward, like, cottage. Like, they are literally saving themselves, catching themselves from their death that they feel is inevitable for
Yeah.
them. And then I added, cannot think of all the costs and all the things that will be lost. And then I also added in floors of a cabin creaking under my step, because there's so much imagery in this book about the cabin, it's the cottage itself, and how it's old, and how like the women go in and clean it up for themselves, and every generation like has been in this cottage, and it's
Yeah.
just so so sweet, and it's really become a haven for them to
Mhm.
think of what their lives are now and the costs and the things that they have lost because of that.
Yeah.
Um, like I said, definitely look at trigger warnings before you read this, but just oh my god, I was like, Evermore. It's
I
literally
think it
Evermore.
Yeah, and I think it sits in that, like, tone and that weight of the song itself. Like, I think
Absolutely.
this, like, the vibes are
There.
perfect. Like,
Yeah.
they're completely parallel in this, so
Yeah,
no, I think
the deepness of listening to this
yeah.
song and, like, how they produced this song and reading the book and how deep she went with her writing and her storytelling. May I
Mhm.
add a debut novel, which is insane,
Insane.
with these
Amelia
women.
Hart, pop off.
It's literally one for one. So, if you're an Evermore girl, like, maybe you don't wanna read this because it's gonna hurt a little too much, but it's really, like, it hits, like, it's right
Yeah.
there. It is right there. But that is all. If you don't wanna add anything
That
else,
is
that
the end. Yes, I know. It's crazy. This is a long episode,
yes, so
but
thanks
we
for
gotta get through all of these
chatting with
tracks.
us.
It's so good. I
Listen,
love
girls.
doing these episodes and talking about Taylor Swift and
Yes.
books.
Yes. It is sad November, so hang in there, everyone.
Yes.
We've actually done 5 other T Swift albums already,
Yes.
so if this was not your album, we've probably done
We've
with the
probably done.
re-releases.
We did 1989, Tortured
Speak
Poets,
Speak Now.
Fearless, Speak Now. No, we didn't do Fearless.
We didn't do Fearless.
We did
We've
Speak
done some
Now.
characters, like, if you're a Fourth Wing girly, we've done,
Yes.
like, Fourth Wing to Taylor songs, and so, like,
Uh-huh.
so yeah.
Midnights.
Midnights,
That was
yes.
the other
Midnights
one.
was fun.
Yes.
So as always, please like, subscribe. We are so excited. We're looking to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. That's like
Yes.
we started the year with less than I think like 500 subscribers. So like this is
Yeah. No,
crazy.
I think at the very beginning of the year, Peyton had to bump up her Goodreads challenge for hitting like 300 subscribers or
Yeah.
200 or
And we
something
were
like
so
that. So
excited then. So if you've been on this journey with us this year, we're
thank
so
you.
blessed and happy that you're here with us. Especially if you're a Taylor fan. I mean, like, come on. So
Obviously.
please
Speak to
like
our
and
soul.
yeah, right? So please like, subscribe. We're hardcover podcasts everywhere. So give us a follow there. Yeah.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us and happy reading or listening.
Yeah.